Welcome back to Old War Stories with Uncle Jay. This one is entitled Part Junkyard Dog. Very odd title. What this has to do with actually ties in with the previous Old War Story with Uncle Jay that I told, called School Library Volunteering, I believe. There's going to be a link in the description. If you haven't seen that video, this one ties right in with it. This was a few years after I graduated from high school, maybe around the year 2000, could have been 2001, somewhere in there. The librarian that I used to do volunteer work in the library for, the librarian of the school library, who had been there forever, had reached retirement age. And she called me up and she says, I'm having a retirement party at a local restaurant. It's on such and such a day. Would you like to go? Okay. I used to go back each year to the school library and visit. I had special arrangements made. We didn't have school shootings and shit like that back in these days to worry about. Schools didn't go on lockdown or any of the shit that goes on today. So you would make special arrangements and you would go in and see the security guard who would escort you to the office, and they would write you in and, grant you access to a particular room in the building. And for me, that was the library, and I used to go and visit. And being that she was retiring, I had no reason to go back to the high school after that. But we did end up keeping in touch just a few years later, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. Well, actually, I'll tell you now because I'll probably forget. The reason why was because in 2005, so this could have been 2000, 2001, maybe even 2002, I don't remember, that she retired. In 2005, I got married, and I invited her to my wedding. And she attended. There was also a secretary in the library who I was also great friends with volunteering there. I invited her and, of course, her husband. And they accepted and came to my wedding. And also got very friendly with my 11th grade English teacher and did computer work for her. Invited her and her husband, and they both showed up to my wedding as well. So those are kind of important characters in my life that actually came to my wedding and saw me off, so to speak, into the sunset. But getting back to the retirement party for the librarian, went to the restaurant, and I'm looking around. I'm like, I know that one, I know that one, I know that one, because a lot of the teachers that were there, while many had retired and there were some new faces, I recognized some of the older ones. And I ended up sitting at a table next to my Spanish teacher in middle school. Had her for Spanish in 7th grade, and then had her again for a later, more advanced Spanish course in high school in 9th grade. I think 9th grade. Yeah. So I had her again, which was great because I did well in the first year of Spanish. Had a different teacher for the second year. Did all right. Certainly not bad at all. I had a good understanding of it. And then the third year of Spanish that I took it for 5 years. It doesn't go much beyond adios and hola, por favor, those kind of things. That's about it. But so she was a good teacher. She really did well, and she did not remember me. She did not recognize me, and she couldn't remember my name. And I'm like, damn, did she like really get old or some shit? Now, she wasn't young, but I was like, really? I said, oh, hey, wait a second. I still have my old high school ID. And I pulled out my wallet and I showed it to her. And she looked at it and she looked at me and she said, you grew up. So I guess, yeah, I looked older in that. It was, I got old quick. But anyway, that's what happened with that. But there was yet another couple of things. Bumped into another teacher, Miss Casto. I don't remember the name of the old war story. Maybe it was called No Regrets. I'm not sure about that. If I find it, I'll put it in the prescription. Casto was my English teacher in high school in senior year. I think she was new to the school. She was pregnant. And I told in that old war story about how we had a report that we were writing, and she said, I'm going to help you along the way. On such and such a day, I want you to have an outline written out on index cards. And I'm going to call you each up to my desk, and we're going to go over them. And I will give you suggestions that will greatly steer you towards getting an A. In other words, I'm going to help you cheat before you have to write the paper on your own. So she went around the room. And, JK18, K is pretty close to the middle of the alphabet there, so in going around the room, because we were seated alphabetically, she finished up with whoever she was dealing with and then called me. And then she said, yeah, no, you're fine. You don't need any help. Okay, Matthew? And Matthew stood up, but I stood up and I said, whoa, excuse me? I'm sorry. You're not going to help me because you think I don't need the help? Are you denying me part of my education? Are you prejudiced against me because I'm Jewish? And I went full fucking Kyle on this lady before that was even a thing. Because she can't do that. She could have called me up there, looked at my stuff and said, you're good. You know what you're doing. And I might have even said, well, is there anything you could suggest? Well, no, I think you pretty much got it. You're good. Okay. Matthew? But she didn't. She refused to help. And I made a big deal out of it. And she was like, oh shit, I fucked up bad. I should not have done that. Oh my God. I said, I am going to the Department of English, the English department head, and I'm telling him about this incident. I said, you can help me now, but I'm still letting him know about this incident. She got really fucking scared. And basically the end result of that story was I scared the shit out of her so bad that driving home, she was so preoccupied about possibly losing her job over this that she ended up in a car accident and had a miscarriage. And it was allegedly due to me, but not really, because I didn't make the mistake to begin with. She did. That was her decision and her decision alone. So I was involved, but I had no bearing on that. And as far as reporting this to the department head, that you have to do that. They can't just get away with this shit. Okay, that's unjust. And some of you might be saying, oh, well, she helped you anyway, so let it go. No, I'm not letting that go because it's simply not fair. It has to be fair to everybody. You can slice and dice that any way you want, but prejudice, no prejudice, denying me part of my education or not, thinking I already had it. If she called me up to her desk and said, you're good, you're getting an A, just turn in blank sheets of paper, you're good, I know your work, that would have been one thing. But she didn't even say, you're getting an A on this, I'll make sure of it, She didn't even try to bribe me. She just knew she fucked up in bad. Casto, this lady, did not remember me at all. But as we sat there, I saw her look over, just kind of looking around the room as you do. And she looked and she said, oh my God, I remember him. And she was scared shit again. I saw it. Her demeanor changed. But how does this tie into the part junkyard dog? Well, that's actually kind of a tertiary part of this, or quaternary part of this. It so turns out the same head of the English department had a podium set up in in the restaurant. They had a room rented out for this special occasion thing, and they had various teachers over the years come up, say a few nice words for her, the librarian, and stuff like that. But he started out before calling other teachers up, and he said, being the school, he was this guy. He was full of himself, and he always had he always gave you the impression that his shit doesn't stink. He's always better than everybody. And he'd always walk around. He was tall, but he always looked straight ahead, but he always had his head crooked to the side. I don't know why, but it was always crooked. He could straighten it, but he never did. He just always walked around crooked like that. And he always had this kind of whiny voice, and he said, being the school librarian is not as easy of a job as it may seem. You have to first of all be a librarian, and of course that's what she is. So she puts the books away with the Dewey Decimal System and all these library things. But you also have to be part school teacher, because you're dealing with students. And you also have to be part referee in case a fight breaks out, and also part junkyard dog, getting rid of the unwanted ones. And that's pretty much the story. I sat, we had a nice lunch. It was kind of like a luncheon kind of thing, so we had a nice lunch there and said our goodbyes, and that was it. Bumped into a couple of other teachers and that. And years later, I invited them to my wedding, and they showed up, and that was that. I never saw any of them since. But it was definitely a big part of my life, volunteering in the school library doing computer work, which also helped steer my career in the right direction as time went on. So that was certainly a fun experience doing that, and then just being that being that I was able to be a part of her retirement party, and that she was a part of my wedding, was pretty impressive in my eyes. I really, honestly can't say there's too many other people out there. There's a bunch, but not too many, that had that kind of relationship with staff of the school, that had actually a relationship outside of the school. And it's not a sexual anything, don't go there. Okay, this is strictly a friendship thing that we had built over the years. And when you're friends with somebody, you see them from time to time when they're available and you're available. It's what friends do. So that's all it was. It was just a friend. And definitely a big part of my life, and I definitely remember that, which is why I told you this whole war story. That's going to wrap this one up. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Make sure you click like, make sure you click subscribe, and take care. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.